one example of that only because it's a bit of a pain. So, let's pick something that's actually not factorable. Y equals 2x squared plus x, oops, minus 8. Are there any factors of 16 that are 1 apart? No. 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4, none of them are 1 apart. If it's not factorable, you have to use the quadratic formula. Use the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula looks like this. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Where a, b, and c are the numbers from your equation. So in this case, my a value is 2. What's my b value? What's b? 1, good. And c is negative 8. So I'm plugging those numbers into the formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over, even the negative 1, all over 2a. Show me one step where you plug in the numbers. Then figure out the entire square root. So 1 squared is just 1. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. And the 2 negatives would make it positive 64. So we have 65 under the square root sign. And it's all over 4. So simplify it to that point. What happens after that?
Split them up, so go like x equals negative 1 plus the square root of 65 divided by 4, and then do another one where it's x equals negative 1 minus the square root of 65 divided by 4, and then work them out and find the two separate ones.
Perfect. One with the plus sign, one with the minus sign. You split them up at this point because it says plus or minus, so you're going to do one of each. So one has a minus sign, one has a plus sign, and you're going to work them out separately. When you do this in your calculator, I'm going to open my calculator just to really, really emphasize, because I've had some people on tests completely mess up the formula, and it's not because you didn't know how to do it, just because the calculation was incorrect. When you're working this out, you can do it all in one step, but before you divide by 4, I need you to push equals, because it's going to follow BEDMAS. It's only going to divide the root 65 by 4 if you don't. So if you're trying to work out this question, you're going to go negative 1, which in my calculator is 1 negative, that's fine, plus the root of 65. If my calculator is backwards, I'm going to go 65 square root. I'm going to push equals at the end. That is the entire top of that fraction. Now I'm going to divide by 4. So this side is 1.77. I'm rounding all of those answers to the nearest 2 decimal places, to the nearest 100. And I'm approximately going to say it's equal to 1.77. I don't know what my units are. It's not a word problem, so that's probably good enough. I'm going to do it again with the minus sign. So negative 1 minus the root of 65 equals, that's the entire numerator, divide by 4 equals negative 2.27. If you are using the quadratic formula and you have something different happen than what you've seen up here with this example, what are the different special cases we can run into? And what do they mean? Yep.
You can do it where there's no roots, which just means that the minimum is above the x-axis.
Right, so either the square root is negative number, which means no real roots. We'll talk about the discriminant in a second. Excuse me. That occurs if the parabola, for example, is up there or down here. and never crosses the axis. Or we could also have the square root of 0. What does that mean? If you get a 0 under the square root sign. Kenzie?
One root,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's on the x-axis.
Perfect. This means there's only one real root, one root, or two equal roots, depending on how you want to explain it, right? Which means if the vertex lies on the x-axis, what should that also tell you that you might have made a bad decision on? If you ever see that the vertex is on the x-axis, what could you have done? What kind of expressions have the vertex right there? Rachel? Got a hand up? No? Hand almost up?
Do you, yeah, like, do you mean, what do you mean, like, you could have common factored?
You could have factored, not common factor, but you could have factored it as a perfect square trinomial. Right? These ones are PSTs. Right? They would have been factorable, so we probably should have factored instead of using this formula, which takes a long time. Okay, so anything with the root that is one root, the vertex lies exactly on the x-axis, it is factorable. You could have used factoring a perfect square trinomial instead. All right? So, quick note about the discriminant. We talked about the situations here, but we'll talk about how to actually work out the discriminant on the next page. What is the equation for the discriminant? Where is it from? If you forget what it is. Where do you steal it from? Yeah, Jane?
It's from underneath the square root sign.
Exactly. So, D equals, underneath the square root sign is B squared minus 4AC. That's the discriminant. If you work it out, and your discriminant is a positive number, it's greater than 0, what does that mean? If you get a number, like you get 16, what would that mean about the parabola? How many roots does it have? 2. 2 real roots, right? This means 2 real roots. Okay. What if the discriminant is equal to 0? That means it's only got 1 real root. And if the discriminant is a negative number, then there is no real roots. I didn't realize it said it over here. Sorry. It's already there. So I'll give you a quick example in case you forget how to do this. Find the number of roots for the equation negative x squared plus 4x minus 12. Give it a shot. What's the A value? What's my A value?
-1.
Yes, -1. B value? Rachel? 4. And C value? -12. So you're just going to plug them in. D equals B squared minus 4AC. So 4 squared is 16. 4 times 1 is 4 times 12 is 48. Is it a positive or a negative? Yep. A negative. Count the number of negative signs. 1, 2, 3. If it's an odd number, it's negative. So this discriminant is a negative number. Negative 32 means, therefore, there are no real roots. If you were going to guess where this parabola would be on the graph, what could you tell me right away, without even trying? Which half of the graph would it be on? Jada?
It's either opening upwards above the x-axis or opening downwards below x-axis.
Right, which one's this? Yeah, opens below because of the negative sign, right? Opening down and it's below. You can look at this and say, oh, I guess it opens down, so it's got to be below the x-axis, right? If you wanted to quickly find the axis of symmetry, find the axis of symmetry, x equals negative b over 2a. That's what you would get if you averaged the two roots with the formula. So negative 4 divided by 2 times negative 1, it's a positive number. So my graph looks like this. Okay. Alrighty. Questions about any of that stuff? We're plowing through it. You guys are doing a good job of being patient today. Thank you for that. Find the vertex, max, min, or axis of symmetry. You have two